Hi and welcome to the Recruitment and Beyond podcast. My name's Ewan Anderson. I'm the Marketing Director here at Eden Scott. This is your essential guide to navigating the ever-changing world of human resources and recruitment. We chat with industry-leading figures to give you the inside track on growing and developing the very best teams. Hi and welcome back to the Recruitment and Beyond podcast. We are joined today by Hannah Gardner, who is the Talent Account Director at LinkedIn. Great to have you with us, Hannah.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And I've been really looking forward to spending the time and getting into some really good, meaningful conversations. So yeah, I'd love to share and share as much value in this session as possible.
Absolutely. I know that our listeners are keen to understand that talent, I suppose, landscape. And LinkedIn has got so many users now that there's just a wealth of data there that we really, it's fantastic to get you on. And it was somebody I was looking to speak to for a long time. So this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. So do you want to tell us just a wee bit about your background first, and then your role at LinkedIn and what that involves?
So yeah, I'm Hannah. I'm a talent account director at LinkedIn. So I've been here for about 7 months, but a lot of my experience kind of sits within. So I've been in recruitment now for over 10 years in varying capacities. I've worked in sales for years, kind of business strategy, startups as well. So kind of co-founded a business that was startup to scale up. So a huge amount of my experience kind of sits within that people and that talent acquisition space. Yeah. I've also worked in recruitment. So I did 360 recruitment. I was a contract consultant, contract recruiter, which I absolutely love. So kind of also very much understand it from kind of a sales staffing perspective. But prior to joining LinkedIn, I guess kind of my longest kind of post really was I was the group talent acquisition director for an international staffing business. So really everything from talent acquisition, attraction, employer branding, talent development, succession, like loads of that kind of sat within my remit. Yeah. And having worked like really closely with LinkedIn from a customer perspective, I got a real insight to how fundamentally important that kind of partnership was. And I think also from a personal level, LinkedIn has impacted me personally in so many ways of kind of creating opportunities. But equally, I just saw a massive opportunity that I had to join a business like LinkedIn, but actually help more businesses in attracting incredible talent, in raising performance, and it comes from a really personal place. So it, for me, I'm a single mom, so finding a career that really enabled growth, was important to me. And actually, recruitment, I think, is such a unique industry. I think it's got low barriers to entry. I think it gives people an opportunity to do incredible things and to progress at a real pace. And so, in my role now, I work with, over kind of 40 clients and organizations to really support them with their longer term business strategy, actually. And then, how does LinkedIn, fit within that? And how do we work with people to really enable that level of growth and success?
I think that's actually quite an important part, isn't it? That very often people think about product development, think about marketing. Obviously, marketing's important.
Of course.
But I think a lot of people just miss that talent side of things. They really, to really get a handle on that and understand the dynamics of your team and really understand, just spend a wee bit of time just getting to know the team, getting to understand the culture is so important, isn't it? I guess you guys will see that. I mean, obviously moving into LinkedIn, a great culture there, and just people just spend a wee bit more time just understanding the analytics behind it, understanding the trends behind it, understanding how that can have an impact. And like you say, the work that LinkedIn's doing is trying to help these businesses to grow with finding the right people, finding the right talent to grow their business. I think sometimes it's not dismissed, but it's just maybe not given the same weight in terms of importance as maybe some other areas.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think as a platform, it's now at 1.1 billion members. And the way that, we view that is it's always a members first mentality. For us, that vision is very much around creating economic opportunity for the global workforce. And how we do that is through our economic graph. So, what we can see within that data is 1.1 billion members. And actually, because of that economic graph, which is a real USP for us as a business, is it generates over 5 million data points every single minute. So if you think about the access that you have with this platform, being able to understand, the scope of talent and kind of, where that sits, what's important to them, what are the trends, how do things evolve? It gives people a huge amount of access. And to give you kind of an even more of an example, obviously we're owned by Microsoft, and a big part of that acquisition was because of our data. So as much as we're a social platform, we're also a data business.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of LinkedIn is that it's not just, for so many people, it's just a job board. It's just where I find that talent. But it's so much more than that, isn't it? And I think actually, if you spend a wee bit of time just getting to know it and getting to understand it, and then speaking to the right people like yourself to really understand how it can benefit your business, and getting the insight. And I know you were giving our team some training as well, and it was hugely valuable. And I know the team really valued that time that you spent with us just to give us better business intel. I mean, I think our job here is to help businesses grow with the right talent, but to get that insight from likes of LinkedIn, where did you say how many data points was it every?
So 5 million data points every single minute. And it's phenomenal. And
I mean, that's mind-boggling, isn't it? Yeah.
And even our CEO did a post the other week where he shared that in just 1 week, 4 million new members had joined. So you can see the rate of that growth. And you said something earlier, actually, I think it's a really important point. As a platform, we don't consider ourselves a job board. I think, if you think about job boards, people go there intentionally to find a job. And then if you think about LinkedIn, of course, I mean, it gives huge opportunities for people to find incredible jobs and to connect with the right people. But people come to the platform to connect. People come to the platform to learn. They come to the platform to share knowledge, to be able to do so many other things. And so then what happens is you have a platform where people are coming there for lots of different reasons. So what it gives organizations an opportunity to do is really tap into a passive audience and meet people where they are. I used to always think about this from a talent perspective. If I'm going to attract talent, and depending on what role that looks like or level or seniority, I need to be where they are. And I need to be consistent and visible to be able to attract people. So if you look at the global workforce, it's about roughly kind of like 30% are kind of active, 70% are passive. So when you have that entire audience in front of you, it gives you so much opportunity to connect with people because they're on there, they're active.
Yeah, and as you say, I mean, it's that global networking opportunity. It's people are there. It's a social channel, and at its core, it's a social channel. Isn't it? It's not, as you say, a job board. It's there for people to learn and grow and develop. And obviously, these channels, they all go up and down, and they change and they adapt. But essentially, at its core, it's about people coming together and sharing ideas and thoughts. So. Yeah, I mean, I guess we wanted to just help our members and our listeners just understand a wee bit around some of the data. So yeah, I wonder if you might be able to share some of the information around things like what's the most in-demand skill in 2025 according to LinkedIn.
So this is so interesting. And I have to say for members and listeners of this podcast, definitely make sure that you're subscribed to things like the talent blogs. Again, in my previous role, I used to read these all the time because of the level of insight, data, information that then I would use to formulate really strong strategies. So definitely subscribe to that. So you'll get access to things like the future of recruiting reports. You'll get things like most in demand skills, fastest growing skills. And so kind of keeping track on that as an organization is really important because understanding an evolution of skills is key to future proofing your business.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, actually, from my point of view, some of these questions, it is about actually future-proofing your business. It's about thinking, A, what does our business do and what do we need? And B, what are we likely to need in the future? How is our business going to adapt, and where are we going to find those skills? Where are we going to find those people to come in and do that?
Absolutely. And actually, if you consider LinkedIn's economic graph, there's over 41,000 skills listed on the platform. So, and that's a real mixture of kind of technical, and I often think of, when we talk about hard skills, soft skills, I often talk about soft skills as behavioral skills. But what we can say is we've got data that kind of shows us that really by 2030, 70% of the skills in most jobs will change, and AI is a real kind of AI emerging kind of catalyst to that. So there's a real evolution of skills that's happening. But what I can say is a lot of the skills, or the fastest growing skills at the moment, is things like relationship building. It's things like strategic thinking, like adaptability. The rate of growth of that skill, of something that businesses need and is in demand, is huge.
Yeah.
And you can also understand why. Like if you look at the last 5 years, actually I say 5 years, it was COVID 5 years ago, which is mind-blowing that it was 5 years ago. It doesn't feel like 5 years ago. But if you think about, say, like the last kind of 6-7 years, and that through COVID, I think businesses, and this is probably my opinion actually more than anything else, but equally I experienced it in an organization. What was so crucial is that the workforce had that ability to adapt and pivot and to be resilient through that. So what we can see is there's a huge demand in those behavioral skills, in those human skills. So again, if you think about kind of the evolution of AI and the rate of change, and don't get me wrong, like AI literacy is in there in the top 5. So businesses are looking for people that have AI literacy and they understand how to utilize these tools, because again, that's going to be a contributing factor to what roles look like in the future and what skills people need.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a bit of a leading question, really, but that was exactly where I thought this would go, is that AI is changing a lot of industries, and the reliance on the softer skills, the skills where people, like you say, adaptability is something, because a lot of the time people can't measure that. I'm very adaptable. You need that. It becomes it's part of your personality, and it's really interesting to see that businesses are looking for that, because they know they need to be able to adapt really quickly. I think the industry is moving so quickly these days that you need somebody who can come in and know that, look, my job description is X, but it might evolve the next year. Like you say, 5 years is a long time. COVID was 5 years ago. Things are going to evolve, and they're going to evolve quickly, because AI is accelerating that pace of change, isn't it?
Yeah. And we've got, again, data to show that, and this is specifically for staffing, that TA leaders and recruitment leaders that are experimenting with AI are saving up to 20% of their work week, which is a day. That's a full day, which I think is incredible. It's going actually, and these are things that actually we're from a partnership perspective on our side, there's a huge amount of investment that is going into the development of AI and the tools that people are using with LinkedIn. And what we're definitely wanting to see is, or support is a higher level of adoption in using those things. What we're seeing from clients that are, and customers that are, is huge success when it comes to revenue, when it comes to what they can do. And we've actually got a couple of case studies of businesses that have seen a real impact to enabling their teams to use AI. But that's also a change management piece. That's a bit where you can talk about how to get the best out of these tools, but what's fundamentally important is that then the leadership at the top drive that level of change in the business, because it takes a little while, as we know, for people to change and do things differently, to get used to using AI, to get it to work for them, which is why AI literacy is a key skill that businesses are looking for.
Oh, absolutely. And is there any differences? I mean, obviously, geographically across the UK, or is there any differences you're seeing further afield than that? Maybe perhaps in Europe, is there a similar sort of desire for adaptability in some other areas across the globe?
So I think there will always be nuances. Like if you think about, differences within key locations and geographical locations, and these are things that we monitor all the time. So I guess what's amazing from our perspective and what we can give in the form of value to customers is, we've got head economists, we've got a chief economist, they are constantly looking at the global data to kind of find those macro trends. So there's always going to be slight differences. But what I would say is there's an overarching piece here, which is about that skills first hiring approach. And a lot of that is around, and again, globally, it's really kind of looking at, a lot of the human skills that people are really wanting to kind of future-proof their business, because technical skill you can train, you can teach. So as long as someone has an aptitude for learning and they are able to demonstrate, their ability to learn quickly, the desire to learn, because that's important, someone's intentional about their own learning, you can train them on pretty much anything. But it's like, the human element, EQ, AI can't compete with that. It can mimic it, but it's like it can't compete with EQ.
Yeah, that emotional intelligence is just so important, isn't it?
Especially easier as well in recruitment. It's like so much of that is about building really meaningful relationships.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think as people grow and whether they want to take on leadership roles or not, the emotional intelligence to be able to simply, as you say, adapt to change that's coming, because change is a major concern or a major issue for a number of companies. And if you've got the team in there that can deal with that and adapt quickly, then your business is going to have that competitive advantage, isn't it? So it's in a good place.
It also gives, just to add to that, it also gives businesses the opportunity to expand their talent pools, because adaptability or those skills could cross over to kind of multiple industries. So it's businesses then the opportunity to kind of look at those transferable skills that also kind of, they could bring into their business.
Yeah. Are you noticing any changes in terms of when you're attracting the best talent? What sort of things that companies should be focusing on in terms of benefits? Are people still swayed by wages, or is it more around company culture? I know we've done some research into this around people will look at the culture, they'll look at the business they're going to in terms of aligning their own values, and just trying to find companies that align with them. Are you noticing any trends in terms of that?
I would definitely say that, again, there's like really overarching trends of what people, look for in an organization. And I would definitely say a business that has purpose. People are wanting to work for businesses that have a really strong purpose and is meaningful. And that's across generations. I think, sometimes we can focus in on certain kind of generational, but actually interesting, if you look across the generational workforce, there's a really consistent trend around people wanting to work for a business that has strong purpose, clear vision, and that there's an alignment of those values. That's definitely something that we can say is pretty consistent. And then there will be, again, slight differences. If you look at, the UK versus maybe Germany versus maybe Benelux, there may be slight differences of what somebody will put at the top. Obviously, compensation and benefits is really high. So people are looking for good compensation and benefits. They're looking for businesses that have flexibility and are very encouraging of that kind of work-life, balance. Equally, they want to work for organizations that are able to give them really strong development and career development opportunity. That's another really consistent trend. People want to know they are going to be able to learn and progress in the roles that they move into.
Yeah, that flexibility, I was interested in that. Just we were seeing a bit of a trend of some probably larger organizations, but not always the case, saying to people that they need to come back into the office. Are we seeing a bit of a turn in that? And are we seeing a bit of a change? Because I know that we certainly still get asked that question straight away. Can I work from home, or is there flexible working here? Are we seeing a bit of a turn in that, or is it quite isolated?
I think, and actually this is probably more from like my own experience rather than specifically LinkedIn, but I definitely think there's been an evolution. I think when we had 2020 and a lot of businesses went kind of either fully remote or kind of full flexibility. I think there's definitely been an evolution of that in terms of, we have seen businesses that have kind of called people back into the office 5 days a week, or, have kind of put much more like a real framework around kind of what that looks like. But I think what's important is it's what's right for any business. And I do think it's important for businesses to be able to share reasoning and why, and what's the benefit, to someone, what's the value to someone in working in that way. So I definitely think there's been a real shift, and there's some really great, individuals to follow to kind of keep on those trends. Molly Johnson, she owns a business called Flexa. She's brilliant to kind of follow because she talks a lot about the trends that you see within kind of hybrid and flexible working. And there is this kind of evolution. Hybrid working is definitely here to stay. And then and it's how, I guess, businesses convey that message of kind of what it is, what that looks like for them. And I think data is really important in that as well. I think I'd said that to you previously in another conversation, but I think data to back up and share what the value is to someone is incredibly important.
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of the flexible working, we chat about this. I think it is about giving people a purpose, a reason to come in. You know, there's got to be a background. There's got to be a purpose for, instead of just saying we're, you know, coming to the office because we need to fill the office. It's got to be, why am I coming in? What advantage? How's it helping the business? How's it helping me? And I think the more that people have a reason for it, I think the more likely to engage with it, rather than just a draconian, right, and you come, that's it. We're all in.
The value, you know, creating meaningful kind of learning moments or connection or collaboration. And people learn differently, people need different things. So I think there's opportunity in a multifaceted approach to that. Equally clear communication. I think, you know, whatever that proposition is from a business's perspective, being clear about, you know, what that is and why.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just a wee bit about like good practice, I suppose, for businesses. I know that you've been incredibly helpful for Eden Scott and helping us just to understand how we can get the most from LinkedIn. And obviously, as a recruitment business, it's a key tool for us. But for any business, really, LinkedIn is important because talent attraction, as we've touched on, is vitally important. So, what sort of good practice in terms of business pages and so on would help a number of businesses? I wonder if there's maybe some top tips that you can give the listeners.
I would definitely say, you know, when businesses, like you said, like for staffing companies, you know, they're using kind of LinkedIn as a solution a lot, and it's incredibly valuable to their organization. I think, you know, whoever your account director, your partner is, I think forming a really strong partnership with that individual is incredibly important. And so that relationship shifts from that kind of what feels maybe more supplier transactional. It's actually creating this partnership and this relationship with LinkedIn where it becomes really strategic. And that is where I see businesses absolutely maximize their potential on this platform. It's allowing us to support, add value, give knowledge and skill. And I think that's where, you know, as a differentiator from our perspective is, we have so much data, we have so much insights, we have so many things that we can share with you to give direction and guidance on, you know, your approach, whether that's identifying a huge opportunity in a particular high growing market, whether that is how to maximize things that sit within your solution to get the best out of it, you know, how to use our jobs. They're incredibly important for brand, for efficiencies, for obviously generating revenue placement fees, but brand as well. You know, and I think businesses, and there's a report from the SIA, so the Staffing Industry Analysts, that showed two really key things actually, which I thought was really interesting at the beginning of the year, of what recruitment businesses are really investing in, and businesses in general. One of those things is brand. I think, you know, recruitment and the markets is competitive. What's really important is businesses are investing in their brand, and they're doing everything they can to make themselves visible, to add value to those audiences. Like, those are the things, those businesses that invest in their brand and continue to invest in their brand is going to put them in a very competitive position. Like you could look at big brands like Coca-Cola or McDonald's. They still spend probably millions on their brand, even though they're a big brand. Like, they also continue to understand the importance of investing in their brand to remain really competitive from a positioning standpoint. And then the second thing is around kind of optimization process, you know, making sure that your people, you know, whether it's automation or AI, you know, how do we support people in kind of managing a really efficient process to get more? You know, to get more from your people, how are you supporting them with a process and tools that enable them to do more? So that's where things like, you know, AI or automation are coming into play. Yeah.
I mean, even simple things like, I know you've talked to us before about things like the length of adverts and the length of emails and that sort of stuff. It's vitally important. It's all based on data. It's not like you're just putting a finger in the air and saying, well, do you know what, it should be around this, it should be around that. That, you know, there's real data behind it. I think sometimes people have a tendency just not to believe the data because it doesn't really align with what they do, or it makes it a bit more difficult for what they're used to. But I think I know there's lots of resources on LinkedIn just to give people some guidance around this sort of stuff, around the length of advert, or the length of an email, or this sort of stuff. These little things, it's that 1%, isn't it? It's that little 1% can make a big difference.
Massive.
Over and over and over can really add real value to your business.
Massive. So I definitely say that relationship with LinkedIn, allowing that to be really strategic and enabling, us to be able to kind of be in it with you. We're on that journey. If I think about what I'm passionate about, but also from a targeting perspective, it's about helping businesses grow and be really successful. So I'm really invested in that journey for you, for anyone that I work with. But it comes from my personal perspective. Like we really care about that. So I think that partnership's really important. I think executive engagement, actually, from an investment perspective, being able to spend time with the execs and the board and the directors, or the kind of SLT across the business, because as you will well know, in that position, coming together and having an aligned strategy is really important. So again, that visibility of how we work with you to achieve that's important. And also that kind of cadence and timeline, being able to set together, key metrics, key areas of success, and have a really strong timeline of communication. So that cadence of communication, regular communication, for us to continue to give you insights, knowledge, is really important. But I think more broadly than that, I think, best practices. There's so many, you've got the LinkedIn Learning Centers, you've got so much kind of stuff that you can access. But I think definitely investing in brand, and being really intentional about how you use the platform will enable great success.
Yeah, you touched on branding there. Actually, it was really interesting, and I know that certainly from a LinkedIn point of view, and something that we've been pushing quite hard, is just the personal branding side of things, particularly from a leadership point of view. But if you're in any way trying to attract staff, and it's not just all about recruitment, but it's about personal branding as well. How important are you seeing that from a leadership point of view, but also from an individual's point of view in terms of their professional growth?
Oh, I love this topic, because I just think it gives individuals so much opportunity when they invest in their personal brand. And again, this is from like a previous experience as well. I used to say to my previous team, I had quite a large team, and I really encouraged them, not just because of what they did. They were all in talent acquisitions. They were attracting great, top talent. But I was like, your personal brand stays with you. Whether you stay here, you leave, you go on to your next play, that personal brand stays really consistent. And so actually, there's an investment in brand, or your personal brand, that has a direct impact to your business, because personal branding and employer branding go hand in hand. So if someone follows me and they like what I say, they'll associate me with also the business that I work for, and that will give them an indication of the type of people that work there and what they value and what's important. And I think people, the way people respond to what someone says versus maybe a business, it's like you've got this brilliant opportunity to give an insight to your people, which people really care about, they want to see. But I would say, it's kind of almost two-pronged. You've got this opportunity to directly impact what you do in your day-to-day in your business, but equally it's a longer-term investment in yourself, because that very much stays. And it presents a lot of opportunity. There was a really good session that we did internally the other week, where we were talking about brand. And it's so interesting, like some of the things that were kind of shared with that was what people are really wanting to see now. So thought leadership's one thing, but actually more so, they want opinions and perspective. They want to hear people's opinions and perspectives. And they want to see this real authenticity come through. That's what people really buy into. And for leaders as well, like I think business leaders, founders, they have a huge opportunity to develop, their personal brand again, because, there's this direct correlation between them and their business and what they do. So I think both from a personal development perspective and from like a, genuine success, like I was able to attract and win some pretty strategic hires from my personal brand in my previous position. And they said, like, the reason that I answered you, or the reason that I wanted to speak, is because I have been seeing your content for 9 months.
That's
a brilliant kind of thing to kind of go, like, that's such an investment or a success story.
Yeah.
But equally, it's something that then follows you. It's, I think it's a massive opportunity for people to develop it.
Absolutely. And it's one of those areas where people who are not used to it or don't have a background in marketing, for instance, or anything else, sometimes shy away from, because, well, why do people want to hear from me? But I think, as you said, if you touched on there, authenticity is so important, and people do want to hear opinion. They want to hear what your thoughts are. They want to understand the way you go and the way you think. And there's real value in that. It doesn't necessarily need to be, groundbreaking, but you tend to find that you find your market. You find your people, essentially. You find your tribe, as somebody mentioned to me once. It's not about speaking to everybody. It's about speaking to people who align with you, and building that personal brand. And you will find people that want to hear what you've got to say. So sometimes it's just about taking the leap, isn't it?
It's about 100%. It's feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
It's being consistent. It's consistency and development of a personal brand is really important. And if I can give anyone kind of any tips of how to kind of get started, I think reflecting on your tone of voice, or how you want, what's the value you want to add to your network? Who's your audience? Defining who your audience is. What do you want that tone of voice to look and feel like? When someone reads your post, how do you want them to feel when they've read that post?
Yeah.
And then what I would always say is some of the hardest bits, that after speaking to people that are kind of going, I don't really know where to start, is content breeds content. So when you consume content, you get inspired. You will have an opinion. I might read something and I'm like, that's really interesting. But I might have an opinion or a perspective on it that then I can share. So it's like, consume content, content breeds content. So if you're struggling with an idea, read, spend the time. You'll probably get an idea from that, and then you'll be more inclined to share that on platforms. I would also say with LinkedIn, commenting really important. It's a brilliant way to raise visibility. So commenting and engaging with a conversation on the platform just is quite significantly, raises your visibility.
Yeah, it's being social, isn't it? It's, as you would to a networking event, you go out and you speak to people. And it's the same way as it's just you're commenting and engaging with people on LinkedIn. Okay. Listen, that's been brilliant. We tend to try and finish with just maybe 3 top tips. So I wonder if you might be able to give us 3 top tips for business leaders out there who are looking to use LinkedIn and maybe get a bit more from LinkedIn and how they might go about it.
Yeah, I love that. So I think I definitely alluded to one of them earlier, which is that strategic partnership. And really, being intentional about developing a partnership and allowing, us to kind of really support and add as much value as possible. I think that kind of strong cadence and communication is also really important. I think also like being like curious, I think there's so much opportunity with the platform, and there's so much opportunity. So I think, actually really understanding the opportunity that it has, because then what happens is you role model it. And so what we often see is some of the best businesses, or the best results that we see is when, business leaders are also really understanding of its capability or the opportunity. And that message is then so strong within the business. It kind of creates this active followership. They're role modeling, how to kind of, whether it's personal branding or whether it's kind of, utilizing the solution in the way that it's designed to be used. And I think being really intentional, really intentional with it. And I definitely would say those kind of 3, that kind of strategic partnership. We want to drive as much value as possible. I think continuing to be really curious. There's so many new developments. There's so many new investments. And again, in my previous role, I was that person, like leading my team. I had a team of 14, and I really made sure that I understood its capability. So when I would come back to my team, I was constantly giving them, this is a new development, that I would do it myself because I wanted to be the best. I wanted my team to have the best knowledge and understanding. So
that sounds good. Listen, that's been great. Thank you very much for your time today, Hannah. Really good insight into LinkedIn and the opportunities there. And I'll hopefully we'll speak again soon. I'm sure you'll be back up to Edinburgh soon, and we'll catch up again soon.
I can't wait. I can't wait to be back. But thank you so much for having me on. And
Thanks for listening to the Recruitment and Beyond podcast. Hopefully there was plenty of insight for you to take back to your teams. So don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. And if you can, leave us a review. We really appreciate all the feedback and support we get. It makes a massive difference.